My first international flight ended with hot coffee and instant karma. It was my first overseas flight ever, from Sydney to San Francisco, almost 14 hours in the air. I was excited, but also a little nervous. I had finally saved up enough for this trip, but sadly, the only seat I could get was the middle seat. And trust me, it was worse than I thought it would be. The man in the aisle seat was a problem from the very start. He smelled really bad, like sweat, old clothes, and maybe even garbage. I tried to ignore it, but I had to breathe through my mouth a few times. On top of that, he kept pushing his elbow into my ribs. The whole flight, he acted like the middle armrest was his property. I tried moving his arm gently a few times, but he didn't care at all. He also ate like a wild animal. When the food came, he chewed with his mouth wide open, making loud slurping noises. He drank his juice like it was soup and even licked his fingers after every bite. It was disgusting. I turned my head just to keep myself from getting sick. To make everything worse, he was super rude to the flight attendants. He snapped his fingers at them, talked down to them, and even shouted, "Hey, you forgot my drink!" They smiled politely, but I could tell they were annoyed too. 10 hours into the flight, I was tired, sore, and fed up. I had pushed his elbow off me 5 or 6 times by then. He just didn't care. I kept thinking, only 2 more hours. Just hang in there. Then the cabin lights came on. The flight attendants rolled the breakfast cart down the aisle and asked if I wanted coffee. I stood up a bit to grab the cup, and somehow, maybe the plane bumped, maybe it was bad luck, I accidentally spilled half the coffee right into his lap. He screamed, a loud, dramatic shout. Everyone nearby turned to look. He jumped up, panicking, trying to wipe his pants with tiny napkins. I said, "Oh no, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to." But honestly, I had to fight the urge to laugh. And you know what? It worked. For the last 2 hours of the flight, he didn't make a sound. He sat stiff and quiet. No more elbow in my ribs, no chewing like a pig. He even ignored the food tray. He just sat there in his wet pants, probably thinking about his life choices. I finally had space to breathe. When we landed and went to the baggage claim area, I saw him again. I tried to keep my distance, but he walked over to me. He looked at me for a moment and then said, "I was kind of a jerk on that flight." I blinked. "Yeah, kinda." He nodded slowly and said, "That coffee, I guess I deserved it, fair enough." I smiled and replied, "It really was an accident." He gave a small smirk. "Sure, safe travels." Then he walked off into the crowd, still smelling bad, still wearing damp pants, but maybe a little more humble than before.